Hey everyone, welcome to Dakota Does Dressage. My name is Andrea, and if you're new here, I started doing Western dressage with my horse Dakota back in 2022. We started at the intro level in Western dressage, and things were going pretty well until he got diagnosed with Lyme disease in the spring of 2023. We ended up taking a whole year off, and I am happy to report that we are back. Getting back to work, things are still a little rocky, but we were able to record a test in June, and we are sticking with the intro level, kind of restarting from scratch, and I'm excited to share how this test went with you guys today. So let's jump right into it. This is Western Dressage Association of America intro test number 1. Right, so with this being our first test in quite a while, I wanted to keep my expectations pretty low, not push Dakota too hard, but I was really pleased with how he was. So here we go, starting the test. From A to C, enter working jog and proceed down center line without halting, then track left working jog. I got a 6 with a remark about more straightness and even contact on center line. And then from E to B, do a half circle left 20 meters working jog. And then B, proceed straight ahead working jog. We got a 6.5 on this maneuver. It says rhythmic jog needs more bend. And I feel like he is starting to do a little better with the contact here. And then between M and C, develop working walk. We got a 7. With a comment of quiet transition, keep balance. His walk is so much better since he got the back injections and the stifle injections, so I was really happy about that. Then H to B, change rein and free walk, and then at B, continue working walk. This maneuver has a coefficient, so we got a 6.5. You multiply that times 2, that comes out to 13, with a comment of more stretch over back, but a clear walk. And then at F, we are going to halt for 4 seconds and then proceed with a working walk. This also has a coefficient, so we got a 7.5 times 2, that's 15, with comments of immobile and quiet, more balance through corner. We struggled with halts 2 years ago. He didn't want to stand very still, so I was really excited to see that score. Then between A and K, develop a working jog, and we got a 6.5. It says more on the aids, and yeah, I remember having to ask him to get going when we were riding the test. Then E to B, half circle right 20 meters working jog, and then at B, proceed straight ahead working jog. We got a 7 with comments of clear rhythm, maintain bend and balance. Between F and A, develop a working walk. We got a 7.5. Prompt transition, keep steady connection. And then K to B, change rein and free walk. And then at B, working walk. This also has a coefficient. So we got a 6.5 times 2, that's 13, with comments of needs more stretch and swing through the back. At M, we're going to halt for 4 seconds and then proceed with a working walk. This also has a coefficient, and we got a 7 times 2, that's 14. Work on square halt, but quiet and immobile, more balance and bend in the corner. And then between C and H, develop a working jog, and H to X to F, change rein and working jog. We got a 7 here, with comments of more on aids in transition, use corner, but fairly straight. I'm not sure if that means we should use the corner or we did use the corner and that's a negative comment. But down the center line here at A, and then at X, come down to the working walk. At G, halt and salute. We got a 6. more straight and even contact, more balance into halt. And they didn't comment here, but I'll just say it. I missed the center line again. This is something I really seem to struggle with, that coming down at the end of our test, coming down the center line, I want to nail it. That really bothers me that I tend to overshoot coming down the center line. Okay, so collective marks for impulsion, I got a 6.5. The judge gave me absolutely no remarks on any of my collective remarks. So I only have scores to report. So 6.5 for impulsion. For rider's position, seat, and hands, I got a 7. For rider's correct and effective use of the aids, I got a 6.5. And for harmony, this has a coefficient. We got a 7 times 2, that's 14. So the final comment here to wrap everything up was a nice pair, quietly written test. Work on straight center lines, balanced halts. I appreciate the snaffle bit and no spurs. So for points, we ended up with 149.5 out of a possible 220 points. And then our percentage score ended up being a 67.955%. So that's not the highest score I've ever gotten on this test. I did score higher last year. I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but I'll put that up here on the screen. But it was a different judge. So, I felt like this test was a little bit cleaner than when I did it a few years ago. So I was actually much happier with this test, even though the score is a bit lower. And then just kind of a fun fact, I ended up winning the class. I got the highest score, and this is the first time that's happened for us. So I just thought that was interesting because I got a lower score on this test, but I ended up winning the class. And I think that just goes to show that you really can make this a competition with yourself. It doesn't really matter kind of how you do against other people, because I know I'm going to be shooting for that higher score the next time we ride this test. I'd like to improve on what we did 2 years ago. But, I did go back and I watched the tests that were submitted by the other riders in my class, and honestly, some of their horses just seemed much more willing. Their ears were up. They weren't twisting their necks around and making ugly faces like Dakota was, and I was kind of surprised that we scored a little bit higher on some parts of the test. But what I think I did exceptionally well is that I rode what I feel is a pretty clean test. Like, I really try to be accurate, that I want to ride right to the letter or stop at the letter where it's calling for in the test. My geometry could be a little bit better. I felt like my 20-meter circle, half 20-meter circle loops were a little bit on the shallow side, but I really try to ride as accurate and a clean of a test as I can, and I think that's just come with riding this test for the last 2 years. I've had a good amount of experience with it, and I don't think any of the people that I competed against were doing the test 2 years ago. I didn't recognize any of the names of the people or the names of the horses, so this could be they're new at it from last year or this year, and with experience, I know the test will change eventually, but with experience, they're going to get better at just preparing for these maneuvers as they go through the test. So I really wish I would have gotten some comments in the collective marks section, especially since, I got 6.5s and 7s. I could understand if I were scoring 7.5, 8, especially getting a 6.5 on rider's correct and effective use of the aids. Tell me what I can do better. That's really what I'm looking for. So a little bit bummed there, but you can, with better dressage scores, you can see who the judges are before you submit your test. And I know that next month is a judge I really would like to hear from. So for July, I'm really working on improving on things like our contact and our connection, our transitions, our halts. I'm really going to work on nailing those center lines. And I think those elements will hopefully boost us up closer to the 70% mark. And I hope that the judge really gives us some great feedback. My plan moving forward for our next test, that I kind of had this plan when I went to shoot this test, but I got there, I got the ring set up, I was just trying to get Dakota cleaned up. He had some green spots all over him from being out the night before, and it was blazing hot. I went early in the morning, but it was still like 90 degrees by 10 o'clock in the morning when we finally got to shooting. And it was rough for both of us. I was melting. So I didn't want to override Dakota, but I feel like I could do a better job warming him up. And what I've been doing since I've been bringing him back into work is I've been lunging him before I ride him. Not to wear him out, not to get him tired, but to warm him up, to get him more supple through his top line, to get him a little bit queued up and ready to go and respond to me. And doing that without my added weight on his back from the get-go. So I would like to do a better job of that in July, and I think that could help us with our suppleness and help with his contact and our connection as we get into the test. And then if you're new at this and you're kind of wondering about how many takes do I do? Some people I've seen on Facebook groups, they say you should treat a virtual test like you're at an in-person live show where you've got one shot at it and you shoot it once, you do one take, and that's what you submit. I don't look at it that way, okay? Everyone has the opportunity to do as many takes as they want. So I don't think by doing multiple takes, I'm taking anything away from anyone else. I look at this as more like a schooling show situation where I'm going to ride the test. I'll ride it once. If I felt like it was amazing and I'm really happy with it, I'd be fine to stop there and submit it. But if there are things that I'm noticing that could go better, I will do multiple takes. And, eventually I go, that's as good as it's going to get today. So I think I rode the test 3 times on this day. And you have to dismount, as you saw when I was talking about my collective marks, and take the headstall off, show the bit. And one of my buttons came undone on my shirt. So it's nice to have some eyes on the ground when you're shooting, someone to kind of be your show mom for the day and help you stay put together and remember your test. If you can get a caller, that's great. But, I look at it as an opportunity to improve myself every time I ride. And so, again, this was our last take of the day. And sure, I probably could have gone, I really could do better on that final center line. I could ride it again with my shirt all the way buttoned up. But I decided, as hot as it was, it probably wasn't going to get any better than that. And decided, let's just end here and submit this. So yeah, I'm excited for July. I have no idea which test I'm going to do, if I'm going to redo this one or try test number 2. I like to try to do each test so that you guys can see me do each test. But, I'll think about where he's at mentally and physically and what would be best for him. And then that's ultimately what's going to decide the test that we pick. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm so glad to be back and shooting tests and sharing them with you all, sharing the comments that we get. And with that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.